But I just want to remind our listeners that you're listening to the new WCEG network on WCEG Talk Radio. Watch us live on your smart TV, YouTube, WCEG network. We are the Worldwide Community Empowerment Group. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and on Instagram at WCEG_talk_radio and at WCEG network. All right. Hey, Miss Lisa, how are you?
I am doing well. I haven't been, gonna hit my microphone. I haven't been talking for a while and I'm like, my voice is sounding like it.
Oh, well, we appreciate your patience and we are really looking forward to hearing the information that you're going to share with our listeners tonight about automation and systems and processes, because this is a nonprofit show, but we also have for-profit people on the show. And so, what we want to do is we want to hear, especially for the nonprofits. And I know that you have volunteered and helped in the nonprofit industry and worked with nonprofits, but we want to give some good advice to these people on how they can use the automation and the systems and processes, because a lot of times nonprofits, you have a founder or CEO and they've been established for a while, but then you also have nonprofits that somebody had a dream or a passion and started something and they're wearing multiple hats and they're never getting off the ground because they're trying to do too many things. And a lot of the things that you're going to talk about tonight with systems and processes can help them, where they can focus on reaching out to the community, serving the community, working with the board, working with the sponsors and the volunteers to help deliver and serve the community in a bigger and better way. So
definitely. Yeah,
absolutely. So, busyness kills your productivity. I think that was the talk that we decided to call this tonight.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting topic. You'd think that most people who are busy are productive. What is the difference?
So thanks. That is a great question. And it is very, very true that most people run around with their chickens with their heads cut off, especially in the nonprofit world. I used to work for a nonprofit. I worked for a chamber of commerce, and then I was working with nonprofits in that and helping them to grow their nonprofit and that type of thing. So, especially in the nonprofit world, a lot of people are trying to balance a full-time job in addition to working with the nonprofit, or, it's their passion, like you said, and they've just put their whole heart and soul in every minute of the day trying to build this passion project that they have, trying to help people. I mean, I don't know anyone in the nonprofit world who isn't trying to help someone. Everyone wants to help and help their community and help people to grow. And, and that's wonderful. But if we're running around crazy and we're trying to always get everything done, and, actually one of the key attributes of being busy and not productive is being a perfectionist, right? Like, it has to be perfect and you have to do it exactly the right way and no one else can do it as good as you can and that type of thing. So you've got this kind of frantic, just kind of craziness going on. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of new business owners, and a lot of nonprofits, they all have this kind of it's a good energy, but it's kind of like a crazy energy. And in the end, it actually ends up hurting them because A, they're going to burn out, but B, they don't get as much done as they want to. They just can't, and they never feel like there's enough hours in the day. So when you understand the difference between, running around crazy and always being busy and putting out fires all the time versus having a very methodical approach to the way you do things and not looking at things from emotions, but kind of detaching yourself from that of why am I doing this task? How is it benefiting me? How is it benefiting my organization? And does it have to be accomplished by me? So more of a holistic type of view of it. It needs to get accomplished maybe, but does that need to be by me? Or does that need to be by the way that I'm currently doing it? And so when you can take it a step back and you can really look at your processes, look at what you're doing, really find your why behind it, then you have so much more peace when you come back and approach that. It's oh, I have a system. I know what I need to do. Here's A, B, and C. I accomplish these things, and then it gets done. And it takes a lot of that franticness, that emotion behind it, and it becomes a lot more of something that you feel very proud of. Like, you have this awesome system and it's getting things accomplished. And so, I just know that in my own life, especially my own world, I tend to automate the things that I hate doing in my business. Like, that's my first priority. I'm like, I'm going to automate this because I really despise doing it. And it's such a relief when I no longer have to worry about that process. I know it's going to get done because I have the steps in place to make sure it gets done. And it doesn't even just take it off my mind, but it like takes it off like out of my heart almost. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't have that emotion behind it anymore.
So I think she's talking about me, Celeste.
Well, absolutely. And, Lisa and I think we first met through Beautiful Faces Going Places, and I've watched Lisa do a presentation through a summit that Carol Dockham had, I believe. And, and I had Lisa talk to my private clients. I was very impressed with her skills and knowledge about automation, because as a business coach, I work with a lot of business entrepreneurs, corporations, and direct sales teams. And one of the biggest things that I've learned and I've seen is that we have a lot of people that need to know more about automation and the difference between busyness and being productive. And they would have so much more time where they're wearing so many different hats and they're just all over the place. And the thing of it is they don't have enough time to do what they're good at, and that is building relationships with people and presenting themselves and their business to their ideal client. And so I love your talk and the things that you help people with. And Sarah, yes, you were one of the persons that I recommended.
and Lisa does an excellent job. It's now my time of the year. My tax season finally is over. But yeah, my biggest process is you got to do the work before you can get to Lisa, right? You need to know what your processes are. So then when you sit down with her, you're not wasting her time, because she's very valuable in what she does. And not only do for-profit companies need this, but not-for-profits need those processes too. They're bringing in volunteers, they're bringing in dollars, they're bringing in all types of things. And if they can make that easier, they need less volunteers so that they can use that money in other ways.
Well, and Sarah, the fact of the matter is the first of the year, Sarah and I created a workshop called Building a Legacy Nonprofit. Sarah and I are very well connected in the community with other nonprofits. And Sarah and I were having a conversation one day, Lisa, and what we noticed was, as we said, this is a great nonprofit, but this person's all over the place, or this is a great nonprofit. This person really needs some help in systems and processes where they can streamline what they're doing so they can do more. They're doing phenomenal things in the community. So this is why we created the workshop, Building a Legacy Nonprofit. And we had 20-something people in this workshop. And again, one thing that we didn't have, Lisa, and the next workshop we have soon, we'll definitely be including you, is the systems and processes, right? Right, Sarah?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, because I know businesses every day. I see a lot of businesses every day, and I see where they're failing and where they're doing well. And typically processes are usually the top thing that people don't do well. And if they get their processes down and automate it, it'd be amazing. They could make more money instead of being busy.
Absolutely. And so, Lisa, what is the biggest contributing factor to being busy versus being productive?
So I would say that it's definitely interruptions and trying to multitask and do things all the time. So I'll throw a little bit of statistics at you. So the average person gets about one introduction every 8 minutes. And that can be an email coming in. It could be a Facebook notification. It could be someone on the phone. There's all sorts of things. And, some of those are important, but most of the time they think about 80% of those things that come in are not urgent in that they have to be dealt with at that moment. So if you're getting interrupted about every 8 minutes, and so that's like 50 to 60 times a day. Wow. So we're talking, if 80% doesn't have to be dealt with right at that moment. That's 3 hours of your day that is being put towards putting out these fires or dealing with these interruptions as they come in. And so your focus gets changed and all this stuff. And that's just, I mean, here's another statistic for you. If you were to get back just 20 minutes every day, so you find a way to find 20 extra minutes every day, at the end of the year, that is 86 hours. And I'm just talking work days. I'm not talking weekends or stuff like that. 86 hours you get back at your end of the year by finding 20 minutes every day that you can automate, delegate, eliminate, simplify, whatever works for you and your business, you know. And that's what I'm trying to help people understand is like, this is for you. This is so you can succeed and do the things that are going to be amazing for your business or amazing for your nonprofit. Because honestly, I think, you know, nonprofits are pretty much a business that's run by volunteers half the time. So like you have all of the business needs, but now your employees are volunteers. And so you've got a whole nother dynamic with that. And so like your processes, they need to be really in place so that you can get people onboarded super fast to be taking over those roles and, you know, doing things like that in those different specific areas that you need help, so that you aren't spending all your time training people, because that's where so much time gets lost, is in the training and the telling them how to do things. If you can, you know, automate a lot of that processes, you can automate a lot of those trainings, you can have a very specific method to how you do things, then it's just a matter of like, it's just so much of that can be automated. So much of that can be with video and text messages and different things like that. You can do so much for people, even when they're out in the community and things like that, to be able to have the resources they need at the touch of their fingers with their phones and things like that. So it just makes things a whole lot better. And it's, like I said, like the ease of mind, because we just have a certain amount of decisions we can make every day, right? Like decision fatigue is a real thing. So every time that we don't have to make that decision anymore, that we know exactly what the process is and we can communicate that process to another person, then we just that's one less decision that we have to make.
Very good. Sarah, you have a question?
Yeah, so what are some of the examples where businesses and nonprofits aren't as productive as they could be? And I think you just mentioned one right there.
Yeah, so definitely on the training aspect of things, especially in something like if you have a business or a nonprofit where you're seeing a lot of turnover in a certain position,
right?
You know, that is a huge, like you've got cost involved in training, but you also have the opportunity costs that are lost in the amount of time it's taking you to do all of this. So, you know, utilizing that within the training and communication with people, that's another big one. You know, I always I say customer service is just making sure that you set very realistic expectations up front, and then you super deliver on those expectations. Like that's what the key to customer service is. And it's the same thing in the profit world, whether it's your volunteers or your donors or whoever, or your board, whoever, if you set these realistic expectations and you deliver on them, then people are going to, you know, they trust you. They believe that you will do what you say. And they also won't be questioning you all the time to figure out like, when is this going to happen? How is it going to happen? You know, that type of thing, because you've communicated that ahead of time. And so they know what to expect, and you know what you need to do to deliver. And then just everyone is just so much more happier in that situation. And there's just so much less stress. And you're spending less time holding people's hands and, you know, and walking them through the process because they've been communicated that up front. Another big one is email. Email is the biggest time suck in the world. A couple of reasons why, like you actually get a dopamine release when you hear that email go off, you know, like that notification go off, and then you go and answer that email right away. Like it's primal almost, that release of like, oh, I accomplished something, check it off my list, you know, that type of thing. It feels really, really good to go and do that. But is that the best use of your time, especially if you're trying to do something that is going to grow your business or grow your nonprofit? Like, that's where the sweet stuff is, right? That's, most of the time emails aren't coming in that are going to be bringing in additional financials or things like that. It's just people wanting a reassurance or or just, half the emails we send are thanks, that type of thing. Like, it just doesn't have to be at that time. Now, I'm not saying those emails aren't important, but they don't need to be the most important thing at that moment. And again, if you set the expectations, you let people know, hey, I answer my emails at this time and this time, so expect to hear back from me at that time, then they're not going, why hasn't she responded back? Because they know exactly, like, hey, this is what she does. This is how she does it. This is her process. And, they also know if they really need to talk to you before then, they should probably give you a call or a text message, because otherwise you're not going to be paying attention.
Yeah, I did that. I made that change this year, or like 3 months ago. I think after listening to one of your talks, I only check emails twice a day. I've turned off the notification twice a day. If you need me that bad, there's a phone here. You can call me or text me. But I just got so caught up every day. I was doing nothing but email and I wasn't being productive at anything else. Email was done, but nothing else was done. So I think I took your advice in that last talk on that part.
I'm glad to hear that. And I really feel like it's, when you can turn that off and not be at the beck and call of your email.
Yes.
It's so free. It feels like you have so much more time in your day. And also, like, email is very rarely something that brings good news. Like half the time or more, it's something that you don't want to know or hear. And it's not anything you can do about right at that moment. So when you have that ability to shut it down, to really focus on things that are important, and that, like really identifying what's important and then putting your focus towards that, you're just so much better off.
Well, I think also, Lisa, when we heard you speak before, that you can take your email, where it comes in, it automatically will drop into a folder or something like that, where you don't even see it till you're ready, when you want to go look at it. Like you could have different folders, correct?
Definitely. Yeah. That's creating rules for your email. Depending on whatever email client you have, it's, called labels and Gmail and things like that. But like, it's just, it's saying, especially if you get a lot of like informational type of emails or things that are newsletters or that type of thing, if you know something coming from a certain person or with a certain keyword, typically isn't something that needs your undivided attention right away. Pulling that into a separate folder makes it so that the things that are coming through that are important gets your attention first, and you don't get distracted by unimportant things.
So what is the first step to becoming more productive?
So definitely it's going to be sitting down and tracking your time. And this is hard to do because you're like, you don't want to know how you're spending your time half the time, because then it's like, oh my goodness, what am I really doing? Like, okay, like I'm spending that much amount of time on Facebook, even if it's good for your nonprofit, like you're making good connections and stuff like that. You're not just scrolling your feed, but still you sit down and you go, oh my goodness, what? But keeping accurate track of that is like the first thing, because once you have, once it becomes math, all the emotion is taken out of things. So knowing your numbers is so important for that. Like you can't really make decisions until it's data-based, because if it's just emotional based, you'll do what I do, like automate the heck out of the things you hate, but you won't necessarily automate the things that are most important to automate if you don't know your numbers.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Sarah.
I talk about that in a different way, right? So, if people, and I say, just track how much you eat out, whether it's Starbucks, Dairy Queen, I don't care. If it's Seasons 52, you'll be amazed how much money you spend just on those type of items. And if you're trying to pay off a house early or or save money for a new car or a vacation or whatever. If you track just that, knowing those numbers, it's amazing how much money people spend. So it's the same thing with that.
Absolutely, Sarah. And and that's one of the things that I do with my clients right away for the first 30 days is I give them a form to track their time. And and then they come back, it's like, I had no idea, because they always say, I don't have enough time. Well, they have plenty of time. They're just not being productive, like you say. They're being busy.
Exactly. And a lot of people don't ever think about the difference of it. They don't realize that being busy isn't the goal. Like if you're busy, you're probably doing something wrong. It's being productive and it's outcome based, like what is actually getting accomplished. And like you said, Sarah, when you end the day and all it feels like is you got emails answered, that doesn't feel very productive.
No.
Absolutely. Sarah, you got another question for us, please.
So what's the ultimate reason or goal for becoming more productive?
So the ultimate goal, there's a couple of them. The first is to really lean in to your specialties, what makes you amazing, and really, really like explore that and utilizing your time for those things. So oftentimes for entrepreneurs, those are going to be making the connections with people that they need to make or doing the activities that actually bring in the revenue. With nonprofits, it could be the exact same thing of making connections with potential donors or creating the events that are going to allow those donors to contribute easier or those type of things. Anything that is going to generate revenue, like that is where your zone of genius needs to be really, really focused in on. Some of the other things that it's going to help with is like making delegation so much easier. So we talked about like this with training. If someone can step into a role and it's already all documented what they're going to need to do in that role, and there's examples and video or different things like that where they can see exactly what they need to do, and they don't have to go ask questions. They don't have to wait for you to be available to answer the questions, those type of things. They can kind of just hit the road running. They feel a sense of pride about that. Like they were able to accomplish something too. Everyone has the same goal in life, and that is to feel connected, to feel accomplished. Everyone wants to be the best version of themselves, or at least we hope so. I mean, if they're volunteering, that's probably the case, especially, or, if they're have a new job or things like that. People want to be able to succeed. So when you give them the tools to be able to succeed, that just helps everyone to feel happier in their roles. And then finally, you're actually going to get better morale when things are automated and the mundane parts of different roles and different positions and things like that are streamlined. So you aren't having to do that as much. People are happier in their jobs or in their volunteering opportunities because everyone wants to do things that they feel valued for. If you feel like you're just a number and anyone could do that, what you're doing, you don't like that. I mean, most people, that's the first step to wanting to go find a different job or find a different opportunity because they don't feel like they bring anything special to the, like if you say, oh, a monkey could do that, then you're just not feeling super great about yourself. So when you have that, like you can take out that mundane parts of admin and things like that. And pretty much anything that can be clicked can be automated. I mean, it's there, at least parts of it can. So that's a really great thing. And then if it can't be automated, it can be delegated. So a rule of thumb I like to talk about that is first look at automation. And if it's repetitive in any way, it's clicked, there's data involved, you probably can automate it. And if you can't automate it, then look at delegation. And if someone else can do that as like at least 70% as well as you do it, then you should delegate it. Because even if you have to come in and finish up that last 30%, it's saving you 70% of your time not having to do it. So those are kind of like how I easily, there's a whole checklist I have and things like that about how to automate, how to know what to automate and, that type of thing. But that's a really quick rule of thumb when it comes to it.
So in the business world, you can get a pretty good idea of what
I
time
hear
is worth. But many people in the nonprofit sector are volunteers. How can nonprofit leaders know what tasks are important for them to focus on?
I can barely hear you.
Yeah, I could barely hear you.
Can you hear me now?
No.
Or I might have a problem with my microphone. Can't hear me?
So I think what she was asking, in the business world, you get a pretty good idea what your time is worth. I think my time is worth a lot more than what I charge for it, but that's my opinion. Many people in the nonprofit sector are volunteers, right? How can nonprofit leaders know what tasks are important for them to focus on?
So it's really good, even if you aren't necessarily being paid for your time. Hopefully, most nonprofits get to where, the people who are doing all the work at least get compensated for their time, because they should be, because they're amazing and they need that. They need to be able to continue in those roles. And compensation is a big part of that. But if you're in the realm where you're still volunteering your time, you need to look at what that would cost a company to come in and do that, or things like that. You need to actually put some numbers to your time, and then that's going to give you a better idea of whether it's cost effective to delegate it or automate it. Luckily, in the nonprofit world, you can get, if you have a worthwhile cause that people believe in, you can typically get some volunteers, some highly skilled volunteers who are willing to donate their time, their knowledge, to help you out. So that's a wonderful gift that nonprofits have that they definitely need to be utilizing. There is no reason for a nonprofit to be doing all their social media if anyone else who has experience in that is willing to do it. Like, they should reach out to people and reach out to companies, because a lot of companies out there want to help. They just don't know how they can help. So, reaching out, giving opportunities to people, that type of thing is really important. I have a podcast, and on my podcast, I actually had someone come on and talk about working with nonprofits and how that benefits businesses. And so, there's a lot out there that, you can educate businesses about how it's going to benefit them, through community perception and employee morale and different things like that, to be a part of this. And if you can, even get 10 to 15 hours a month donated time-wise to help out with some of these tasks, that's an amazing gift. So definitely take advantage of that, but put an actual value to your time. Don't think that because you're not getting paid, your time isn't worthwhile, because it is so worthwhile. And it's probably more important that you streamline how you're using your time when you're not getting paid, because your time is going to be very limited. You're going to have another source of income for your living expenses and all that stuff. So when you are focused on your nonprofit, it needs to be highly focused and highly productive, so that you can get the most out of your time.
Absolutely.
And I listened to your podcast, Business Under Pressure.
Yeah.
Very good. I listened to it.
That makes me happy, because no one listens to it yet, but we're getting there.
I did.
Good.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now, sir?
No.
You can't hear me?
Unplug your earphones and just talk and see what happens.
Can you hear me?
It's the same.
It's the same.
Same. All right. Can you hear me now?
About the same. Okay, so the final takeaway, where should people who want to become more productive start? So you're talking to me, where do I start?
The first thing, well, we already talked about tracking your time, but I would say before that is to get in the right mindset about it. It has to be something that you really want. If you don't want it, you're not going to put the effort into doing it, or, well, you might put the effort into setting up the systems, but you're not going to stick with them. So finding your why and figuring out what the ultimate goal is, and making sure that resonates with you, that is number one, because like I can tell people all day long, and I'm glad that you guys have implemented some of the things that you've heard me say, but like I can tell people all day long hints and tips and things they can do to be more productive. But until they say, this is going to benefit me, this is really going to help me and my organization, they won't implement them. So I think really coming and finding that why for you personally is a huge part of it.
And one of the things I've learned over time, and especially this year, as a business owner, I need to set time aside just to do those things. And of course, this tax season, it wasn't as easy to do that. So now for the next few months, those tasks have got to be done. So at the beginning of next tax season, I'm not rushing. I'm not running around here with a chicken with her head cut off.
Yeah.
I need to have those set up. But I've learned over since then that one day a week's got to be to grow my business, all about the business, not about the work. Because if I don't take care of the business, I won't have the work.
I love that. And it's so true. And that's actually time blocking, right? Like where you block out certain days and certain times where it's for a certain type of task. And that's all you do during that time. And that's really a key to productivity too. And, you know, of course I didn't get into everything because there's like 1,000 tips out there to be more productive. But you know, like that is a huge thing. Like and the great thing is you've recognized what are the growth activities in my business, because so many people think it's just providing a service or product, but that's not the case, because you have to have people to provide the service or product to. And the same thing for in the nonprofits. If you're not making those connections with people who are going to be able to help you fund your nonprofit, then you're not going to have a nonprofit that you're going to be able to do all this wonderful work with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we've got just a few minutes left. Excuse me. So tell us how we can find you, where we can listen to you, like your podcast, all those wonderful things.
All right. So podcast is Business Under Pressure, but I honestly think a lot of nonprofits could get a lot out of it too, because it all is, I bring in guest experts and we talk about everyday problems that businesses and nonprofits really face. So whether it's in your branding, in your messaging, you know, like I said, talking about like how philanthropy helps your business or different things like that. We try and explore all sorts of different topics. So that is one place. It's Business Under Pressure, and it's everywhere podcasts can be found, and on YouTube. So you can watch it there if you want to see video instead of listen to audio. And then Lisa at sage-peak.com. That's my email. So sage-peak is my business, Sage Peak Business Solutions. Also, you can Google that. You will find me. And I have a Facebook group that is Success Driven Entrepreneurs. And we're actually going to start really diving into that group about productivity a whole lot more. But it's also a place where you can come and connect with other business owners and help each other grow your businesses. So yeah, those are the best places to probably get a hold of me.
All right, Celeste, can we hear you? No, I can't hear you at all now. Well, that's a first, ladies and gentlemen. That's a first. To not be able to hear her and have her talk. Well, I just want to thank you for coming on. I've really enjoyed it. I enjoyed you last time. I do have some follow-up to do with you. And you're an amazing woman with a lot of great ideas, and I really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
We want to thank WCEG for another wonderful evening with our guest. We couldn't do it without Penny and her network. We hope everybody enjoyed the evening, and hope to see you next time. Anything else that we can't hear you? Put up a sign. Thanks, Lisa.